Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Adam D'Angeli from the Rescue Michigan Coalition, and tonight we've got a special midweek live stream. We're going to probably be doing more of these since the all-important election is just getting closer and closer. It's really actually already happening right now. Absentee ballots have already gone out to a lot of people. Some of them have even turned them in. Time is not out, however, there is still a lot left. And frankly, most of the people who turn in their absentee ballots as early as possible are typically the ones whose minds are already made up. But nevertheless, it is a ticking clock, and we need to do everything that we can to save our state from this cabal of complete lunatics. We've talked a lot about the things that they are pushing on the ballot proposals. The three of them, one of them we haven't mentioned too much, and that's the one on term limits. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight. We're going to show off our new flyer, which you can all download for free at rescuemichigan.com. We are, in fact, so kind, you don't even need to sign a piece of paper or sign up for our email alerts or anything like that, although I'm sure most of you guys get them anyway. But you can just go to our website, and there is a link. In fact, I will put it on the screen so you all can see exactly how to get there if you didn't already see the link in the email. And then we've got some topics I want to talk about tonight. But first, real quick, let me just put this up on the screen. By the way, I see you guys all on Facebook and Rumble and YouTube, although we are going to be hanging up on our YouTube stream in just a moment since we'll be talking about the election. And I think, by the way, as a matter of policy, we're going to start doing that from now on. I'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let me show you where you can get our brand new flyer. If you go to our homepage, you'll be at rescuemichigan.com. And this is what it looks like if you're not logged in. And all you need to do is go to this link here, third from the top. I should probably get rid of this one since that school has already happened. But this third link down is the link to the flyers on the proposals. We are all out of the flyers that we had printed. We distributed 50,000 of them around the state. So thank you all for buying them. I hope they will be effective in the field. We will see if we can have a newer version printed soon, which will be maybe glossier than the one we just made today, but just a simple one-page flyer, the kind you can print from home. It's a PDF. You can see it's right here on the screen. There's a link to just download it. You can print it out yourself, hand them out anywhere you want. It does not need to have a paid-for-by disclaimer because it does not have any what's called express advocacy in it. So this is, frankly, nothing more political than what you see in the Detroit News, other than that it is true and not false. In fact, that's, of course, exactly what we're doing here, is correcting the lies in the mass media and the lies, of course, coming from the campaigns promoting these. First and foremost, Gretchen Whitmer herself. But anyway, so yeah, just to go through these, you know, I still get emails, folks, from people who are on our list, and I know we've sent out a lot of emails about these proposals, and people are still asking me details about proposal 1 and proposal 2, and I heard this, and what about that? And the fact is, nobody else is going to get this information out in your own neighborhoods if you don't. So, oh, by the way, yeah, so I see everyone in the chats. Feel free to say hello. Hi, Michelle. Phoenix Exigal says, vote no on all 3 proposals. That's my recommendation as well. Also says, protect the down ballot candidates. Those of us running are the future of the GOP. That's right, Phoenix. And wherever you are, we need people knocking on doors, handing out flyers like these. Also what we call poll cards, which tell people how to vote. It's not just vote Republican, especially for the school board candidates and the judicial candidates. They are nonpartisan seats. People need to know you can't just vote that straight ticket Republican bubble. That was something that the legislature actually took that out, being allowed to be on the ballot because of how confusing it was for people. An activist left-wing judge put that back into the ballot so that people would make mistakes. You have to fill out your ballot completely. So, and by the way, if you don't already know this, let me give you guys the best way to vote. Obviously, voting absentee ballots are not safe and only should be used as a last resort if you absolutely will not be home on election day. But there's an alternative. If you are home anytime in the last month leading up to the election, like right now, what you can do is vote absentee early in person. Here's what you do. This is how everybody really should be voting every time. You go to your city or township clerk's office. You ask for an absentee ballot application. You fill out the application right then and there, hand it to them. They hand you the ballot. And if you want, you can fill it out right then and there, or you can take it home, research it as much as you want to, fill it out, and bring it back and drop it off at the clerk's office. You don't need to use the U.S. mail to fill out an absentee ballot. As long as you keep your own ballot secure, you're fine. And that way you don't have to vote at the polls on election day, which you shouldn't be doing because we need you guys working the polls on election day. Either ideally as poll workers or campaigning for candidates that you support outside the polls, handing out cards to voters, telling them who they should be voting for, or being a poll challenger. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot tonight. Anyway, let me just go through this real quick. The facts and falsehoods about the Michigan ballot proposals. Proposal 1. We haven't been talking about this one too much, simply because it's not as dangerous as the others, but it's still quite bad. And we really do need people informing others about this one as well as the others. This proposal is to let Lansing politicians serve for 6 terms in the House instead of 3, in essence. And again, the campaign to deceive voters is being run by the quote-unquote establishment. In this case, it's the Chamber of Commerce. In these other 2 proposals, it's the radical left. In this case, it's the rhino right. The Michigan legislature put this proposal on the ballot to let their politicians spend more time in Lansing. The goal is to suppress the grassroots. The goal is to have politicians entrenched and more difficult to be held accountable to voters. That's why they did it. And what it does, what the deception is, they say, well, now politicians can serve for 14 years in Lansing. This would say only 12. Well, what's misleading about this is that most Lansing lawmakers never get to the Senate because there are only 838 Senate seats. There's 110 House districts. So 2/3 or more of the House representatives never go to Lansing in the Senate because when they come to the end of their second term or their third term, there's typically either already an incumbent senator who has the incumbency advantage, so they can't run for the seat. Or if it's an open seat, well, the average Senate seat covers 3 House districts, so they may have competition. And someone wins and the rest lose. So for practical purposes, most Lansing politicians only serve for 6 years. This would let them all serve for 12. And now they don't have to compete for the same Senate seat. They can just sit pretty in the House for 6 whole terms. And then after those 12 years are up, then their spouse can probably run for that. That's pretty common in Lansing. And it is all an effort to insulate them from the grassroots, to make your voices count less. Because the more they serve in office, the longer they serve in office, the harder they are to get out when they do the wrong thing. And then the more often they do the wrong thing, the less they listen to their constituents and the more they listen to their lobbyists. That's what this proposal is all about. So if you have the opportunity to talk to voters about the proposals on the ballot, obviously the other 2 are worse. We've been through these. Proposal 2 is to dismantle the remaining safeguards against election fraud. This is not a complete and thorough description of every single thing that's in Proposal 2, but it's the worst of them. And this is a short, tight one-pager. A lot of people are not going to take the time to read your turn paper on every single thing that can go wrong in Prop 2. We, of course, do also have this flyer on Prop 2 all by itself. You can download that if you want. Obviously, a black background is tough to print, so we even have a white background version that goes into Proposal 2 in more depth. And again, you don't even have to register for the website to get these. They're all right here. So going back to this flyer, which again, you can start printing right now as you're watching if you like. We also mentioned Proposal 3, legalize all abortion and child sexual mutilation. Again, these are really the 2 top points on this. If you want to get into the nitty gritty about, for example, it also makes it more difficult to investigate actual infanticides. That is true, but again, for the sake of limited space, this is showing the voters how the media is lying to them, and that is critical. So people are lying and saying this will keep the abortion law the same as it was. No, it does not. Michigan law does not allow for actually any abortions, but for Roe versus Wade, and more recently, I think a Michigan State Court, I think it's either the Court of Appeals or the State Supreme Court, has put an injunction on the law against abortion. The only abortion legal in Michigan is for the health of the mother. That's it. So there it is. And then just at the end, these radical proposals have no place in our state constitution. That is actually not what's called express advocacy, which involves using the magic words, vote for, elect, defeat, cast your ballot for. When you say it that clearly, then if you are not an individual acting alone, you have to put a disclaimer on it. This doesn't say that, so you don't have to. You have to say paid for by so-and-so. You don't have to say not paid for any candidate or anything like that. You can just print these off and hand them out anywhere you want. I would certainly encourage you to hand them out in your neighborhoods, hand them out at parking lots, hand them out anywhere. Any friends, family, people you know that need to know this and will appreciate you telling them about this, ask them to print out copies themselves too. We need to get the word out, folks. The time is very, very short. So we'll be releasing more and more and more materials in the days to come. Look for those very soon, but this is just a quick hit, simple, plain, easy to print from home. So there you go. Marcus, are we going to do Nestle or Benson flyers? We've thought about that. We are still selling our Gretchen Whitmer flyers for one thing, and I think I'm going to do another run on the proposals. I may design a Nestle and Benson flyer. I don't know if we're going to be able to order and print them and sell those to people in bulk. I certainly want to. I am concerned just by looking at the poll numbers that all of our candidates are in trouble. And if we have to focus on one thing, I think focusing on the governor race and the proposals are the biggest. Probably the governor race is actually the biggest. I mean, even if these terrible proposals get adopted by voters, if the Republicans manage to hold the House and Senate and win the governor's mansion, they can put a proposal on the ballot in 2024 to amend this back, or even to strip out the most barbaric parts of this. Because, you know, Proposal 3, if you take out the child sexual abuse stuff and late-term abortions, that would pass easily. And the Democrats would never be able to argue against that. And the campaign on that would show voters how they were all lied to about and what they voted for. Allegan News says the RNC is not helping on ballot or candidates. Well, the RNC is actually doesn't have that job. The RNC's job is winning the presidential race in 2024. There's different organizations whose job is different elements of the ballot. Allegan News says, let me actually finish my previous point. The state party's job is to elect Republicans in general, and especially the governor, attorney general, secretary of state. The statewide races are the state party's job. The state House, there's what's called the House Republican Campaign Committee. The state Senate is the Senate Republican Campaign Committee. The U.S. Senate is the National Senate Republican Committee. Congress is the National Republican, or the House Republican National Committee, I think. No, NRSC, National Republican Campaign Committee. That's the committee for Republican candidates for Congress in general. Your county Republican Party's job is to elect candidates at the county levels, county commissions. At a lower level than that, if they exist, that should be your local Republican organization's job to do. If there isn't one, consider starting one. So yeah, different organizations have different responsibilities here. The state party is doing what they can for the statewide candidates. They're only as good as how much money they have. And as I mentioned in some previous live streams, after the disaster of the state convention we had recently, where an angry mob of lunatics led the entire state delegation to throw out the lawfully elected delegation from Macomb County and nearly vote to remove the permanent convention chair, who has personally financed most of these operations. I mean, he probably decided he didn't need to spend $5 million of his own money in these races anymore. And that's a terrible, terrible thing that happened. But at the end of the day, folks, it's all of our jobs to get these people elected if we support them. And I'm not telling you to support every single person on the ballot. We have rhinos out there that you should not support. That's for sure. But at the top of the ticket, we have the most conservative slate that we've had, as far as I remember, with all three: Tudor Dixon, Matt DiPerno, Christina Caramo, and Tudor's running mate Shane Hernandez. You can't ask for a more conservative ticket than that. And if it loses, we're in big trouble. So I hope you guys do everything you can, and that primarily means knocking on doors, as many as you can, every day between now and election day. All right. What I want to talk about now, we're gonna get into this lawsuit in just a moment. That's the big news. First, I'm going to hang up on YouTube. And for those of you who don't know, there is a very prominent YouTuber, the guy who actually inspired me to start doing these streams. His name was Nick Rekieta. He was just expelled from YouTube just a day or so ago. There's probably already stories about this. You can already see links here everywhere. LawTube reacts. Nick Rekieta terminated by YouTube. Nick was a highly influential YouTuber and basically invented or created what came to be called LawTube. And his show was called Law Splitting the Interwebs. He is still live streaming on Rumble and on Locals and on Odyssey, and I believe he's working on getting the YouTube issue resolved. But the reason Nick was kicked off of YouTube was because he had done a show about a radical transgender activist who was actively promoting mailing transgender hormone drugs to children around the country. In other words, committing crimes. And for talking about this individual, a mob of radical transgender activists campaigned on YouTube to have him removed. First, actually, they appealed to the bar in his home state of Minnesota to have his law license revoked, which they threw out and laughed at because they had no basis to do that. And so he received the actual names of all of the people that submitted those complaints. He mentioned them on his show. He did not read their addresses. He courteously redacted them. But then they targeted his YouTube account. And incredibly, YouTube has banned his channel for telling the truth about a criminal actor sexually abusing children in the United States, because a mob of lunatics told YouTube provably false statements about him and lied about what he said on his own channel. Of course, for all of you, as I'm sure you all know, free speech on the big tech platforms like YouTube is basically non-existent. The moment you're a threat, they'll shut you down. And we all need to migrate. We all need to get off of these platforms. Personally, I like watching a lot of content creators on YouTube, and many of them have moved to Rumble, and some have not. But it's tough to make a conscious effort to switch platforms. We have to. Rumble is rising at an astronomical rate. A lot of content creators are moving over there, and we have to start encouraging others too. So for those of you who might be watching on YouTube, I'm going to encourage you to switch to watching this stream on Rumble, which you can just look up Rumble, go to rumble.com, type in Rescue Michigan, you'll find our channel. We are live. You can also go to our Facebook page. For some reason, Facebook has been okay with our videos. I'm surprised at that. They're probably suppressing our content there, but they haven't taken down any of our videos. So go to one of those other places, because I am going to shut off the YouTube stream right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can meet back up with us as the stream goes on Rumble and on Facebook. So let me poof.